And or actually, I guess it's good afternoon. And welcome to TEDxLSSC. My name is Heather Almaty. And we will be your co-host for this event today. So today's theme is exploration. And according to the Oxford English Dictionary, to explore means to travel in or through an unfamiliar area or landscape in order to become familiar or learn about it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to be looking at different landscapes, both physical and philosophical. We're going to look at above ground and below ground. We're going to look at ideas, and we're going to even hear a little poetry, since this month, April, is National Poetry Month. So we're excited about all the speakers that are here today. Now, Jeremy's going to tell you kind of how the salon format runs for those of you who may not be familiar.
So in the spirit of a real salon, we want to hear from you. So it's kind of somewhat of a conversation. So whether you're here in the theater or you're over on Zoom, as you're watching the talks, go ahead and think of some of the questions you might have for our speakers. And I'll sit over here at the question desk and ask those questions. And so send those along in the chat function in Zoom, or I'll ask for our small studio audience here if they happen to have any questions. So we want to hear from you. Keep the conversations going.
All right, so let's get into our first speaker. Our first speaker is a licensed psychologist for over 30 years, specializing in helping people work and do work in the areas of trauma and abuse recovery. She's a published author and a former TEDx speaker as well. As an outdoor enthusiast, she loves the idea of adventuring, and she views exploration as an adventure that is new for the person. To tell us about her recent adventures, life lessons from the Camino, please join me in welcoming to the stage Dr. Becca Johnson.
Hi, I'm Becca Johnson. I'm a licensed psychologist and an explorer. Well, I'd like to think of myself that way. Ever since I was young, I've wanted to see and do new things. The Star Trek introduction states it well, to boldly go where no one has gone before. And I also like what songwriter Janice Stanfield shared. I'm not lost, I'm exploring. I welcome adventures, and I'm thankful for the health and opportunities I've had. As a child, I grew up on a wildlife refuge in Northern California. This afforded me many opportunities to explore the numerous fields and ponds and marshes. I learned to fish, hike, study birds, and I also had the opportunity to help raise abandoned animals, including a raccoon, fox, skunk, and even a bear cub. As a young adult, I led adventure camping, canoeing, hiking, and biking trips for teenagers. I also helped smuggle Bibles into countries where they were not available. I'd like to share with you on the screen here a chart I developed, helping us understand what I consider the levels of adventure or exploration. And as Heather said, I view exploration as adventures that are new to us. Well, in level 1, it's pure fun. The experience is fun. The activity is fun, and upon reflection, it's fun. In level 2, the experience is a bit challenging, yet upon reflection, we view it as enjoyable. In level 3, the experience is difficult and hard, and upon reflection, we view it as distasteful and never want to do it again. But in level 4, we view the experience as, well, the experience is difficult, hard, and challenging, yet upon reflection, we view it as rewarding and life-changing, maybe even healing or transformational. Well, a few years ago, I had a level 4 experience. It was hard, but it was also life-changing. I just discontinued working full-time in a demanding job and was so ready for a break. For 30 years, I've been working with victims of sexual abuse. And for the past 15 of those, I've also had the privilege of helping survivors of sexual exploitation and their caregivers in over 30 countries around the world. The 3 years previous, I served as the international training director for a global anti-trafficking organization. Over the years, I've heard hundreds of life stories filled with tragedy and despair. I needed a break. So what did I do? Let me share some photos with you. I walked 500 miles or 800 kilometers on the Camino pilgrimage in Spain with my husband. This pilgrimage dates back 1100 years in memory of St. James, ending in the city of Santiago de Compostela. So what did I experience? Well, exhaustion and long days of walking and walking and walking. I also experienced sore feet and blisters, many sleepless nights in hostels filled with snoring strangers, young and old, male and female. But we also got to experience beautiful scenery. And meeting fellow pilgrims from around the world. And I love seeing the magnificent cathedrals and small village chapels with their ornate altars and amazing artwork, all created to honor God. Am I there? I don't see me right now. There we go. It was hard, but I viewed it upon reflection as wonderful and challenging. In fact, next year, my husband and I are going to do it again next fall, and we did it last year. But I'd like to share with you some of what I learned or relearned from walking the Camino, but also from my years of being a professional counselor and also a fellow pilgrim in life. I think these are key points as we navigate life's journey. So first of all, exploration is essential. We should never stop exploring and learning from the world around us, whether the adventures are big or small or local or global. One person said it well, exploration is curiosity put into action. J.R. Tolkien wrote, "Not all those who wander are lost." I believe that wondering and wandering go together. Second, exploration should include self-discovery. We examine not just what's going on around us, but also what's going on inside of us. We ask hard questions about ourselves, our habits, our past, our beliefs, values, and decisions. We need to be open-minded and brave. See, adventures are enhanced when accompanied by reflection and revelation. It's been said, adventures fill your soul. Another person stated, you must go on adventures to find out where you truly belong. And I would add, you must go on adventures to find out who you truly are. Third, exploration can be hard. In The Road Less Traveled, author Scott Peck begins, life is hard. Exploration generally requires dedication, commitment, and perseverance. It can be physically and emotionally difficult. Our challenge is to press on during hard times, not to give up. If we do, we miss out on much of life's treasures. As I shared, walking the Camino was a level 4 adventure for me. It was filled with physical aches and pains, and yet at the end, I was filled with a sense of accomplishment and a renewed inner strength. If I had to summarize my experience, I would say that it was exhausting, yet invigorating. I would say it was challenging, yet encouraging. Have you ever had an experience like that? Hard but good, challenging but good for you? Fourth, exploration is about the journey and the destination. You've probably heard the quote, focus on the journey, not the destination. We're to live in the present and not always focused on the future. But as I daily walked the Camino, I always had the destination in mind. I knew where I was headed. The journey is important, but so is the destination. And I want to share another photo with you. See, without a destination, we wander aimlessly, without focus and purpose. Without a focal point, we can get off course. We lose hope, we lose our way. It's too easy to get bogged down by burdens and distracted and discouraged, to waste time and to wander off. But perhaps the most important life lesson I relearned while doing the Camino was simply this: pack light. Pack light. See, when packing for the Camino, each item is carefully scrutinized because every ounce counts. The pilgrim must pack sensibly and simply, getting rid of any unnecessary items. Within the first few days, most people start shedding things they once thought essential. Pack light. When wilderness backpacking, one's pack can easily weigh as much as 20 or 30% of their body weight. But for Camino travelers, one's pack should weigh about 10% of their body weight. Now, I found that comforting and appealing until I had to wear my pack day after day after day for 500 miles. Sometimes my 15-pound pack seemed more like 50 pounds. I remember at the end of the first day, we stayed in a municipal hostel in a quaint Pyrenees mountain village of Val Carlos. It was there that we met a young woman from South Korea. And I would guess that with her petite frame, she barely topped the scale at 100 pounds. Yet her hefty backpack, full front pack, and her laptop case combined were easily 50 pounds. It looked like she literally had the weight of the world on her shoulders. Well, at least the weight of her world. She desperately needed to shed much of what she was carrying. We never saw her again, but I often wondered if she was able to finish. And as I reflected on her energy draining pack, I sensed God's gentle voice telling me that I too was carrying a lot of excess baggage. Ouch. Too often, I carry past hurts and their painful memories, and I also carry grudges rather than letting them go. My numerous fears, worries, and insecurity weigh me down as well. I remember obsessing on a past hurt one day while walking along the Camino. I was so consumed by my anger that I was oblivious to my surroundings, sort of like a zombie. Then my husband said, "What beautiful scenery, the wildlife, the wildflowers and vineyards." I missed the beauty around me because I was distracted and weighed down by a grudge that I needed to get rid of. I know I'm not alone. We miss out on much of the good in life when we carry excess emotional baggage. As a professional counselor, I've worked with a multitude of people overloaded with unnecessary burdens. We hang on to things in our lives that we should cast off and cast away. I've seen far too many people staggering under ridiculous regrets, burdensome grudges, foolish unforgiveness, worthless worries, failures and fiascos, addictions and adversities. In addition to those, we also carry unhealthy choices and harmful habits that bog us down and trip us up. These can include substance abuse, a porn addiction, untamed anger, continual comparisons, gaming or binging, unhealthy relationships, and many other things. These weigh us down and sabotage our well-being. And we must also shed past abuse and trauma with its undeserved guilt, shame, and pain. Taylor came from a dysfunctional home where he was not only abused and neglected, he was also abandoned and rejected, causing deep emotional wounding. Jen came from a home where her parents said they loved her, but they also sexually abused her. Both of these amazing and courageous people are on a pilgrimage to lighten their load. Life is still hard at times, but it is so much lighter than before. Each year they shed more and more of the pain from their past. What about you? If you've experienced abuse and trauma, don't keep the hurt hidden. Don't let undeserved shame control your life and bury you under its enormous load. And don't go it alone. We need others to help us walk this difficult but necessary journey. Share what happened with an emotionally safe person and with a professional counselor who can help you process the traumas. So our challenge is to not become complacent and comfortable with our pain, but to get motivated and moving. Seek help, pursue healing, lighten your load, explore your potential and possibilities. Pack light in life. I like what is written in Matthew chapter 11, verse 29 in the Bible. Are you tired, worn out? I won't lay anything heavy on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. That's our goal, to learn to live freely and lightly. Well, I was a pilgrim on the Camino, but we are all pilgrims on an exploration through life. Let me ask you what I asked my fellow travelers on that long journey. Why are you doing this? Where are you going in life? And I should have also asked, what are you carrying that you shouldn't? Whether in your backpack or in your life. When you look at your life, have you been open to learning and exploring new ideas? Have you welcomed self-discovery? And have you endured during the hard times, not giving up? Have you kept both the journey and the destination in focus? And have you lightened your load from past hurts and unhealthy habits? May you learn to live lightly and well, exploring and enjoying the world around you. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, so I'll go ahead and get the questions started for Becca, and I see we also have some questions in the chat. So I'll start it off with how did you feel when you finished the Camino? Sort of what was going through your heart and mind?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So what happened when I finished the Camino was something very unexpected. We were walking through the old part of Santiago de Compostela down the stone, cobblestone pathways and into this big stone arch and down these stairs. And then all of a sudden you're in the plaza and I realized we arrived. And the unexpected thing that happened is I burst into tears. I just started crying and crying. And it was for two reasons. One is I was so thankful for the experience, but also I was so thankful it was over. But there was such a sense of accomplishment. And there's something just to, after such a long, hard, but wonderful trip is to reach the finish line. So that's what was going through my mind, just thankfulness.
Very good. Just to make sure you can see me, Becca. We had some other questions in the chat. I'll start with, so do you have any other dream travel destinations that you have not done yet or you're planning to?
Oh, I've always dreamt of going to the Antarctic. I have been up to the Arctic some, but I think my next one's going to be Iceland. But a longer version of it. But, as I get older, my adventures or my exploration are changing. Although I have to say this, next month I'm going to Nepal and going to do some low-level trekking up into some villages. And actually there are villages that have people that as you go visit those villages, you help bring income so that the people do not sell their children into sex trafficking or human trafficking. So I'm going on an exploration or a trek in Nepal next month.
Okay, the next question is from Akarshan, and it's isn't inner exploration better like meditation, because outer exploration also requires you to spend money and time, which not everybody has full access to because of circumstances.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. And that's why I said that, exploration is essential, whether it's local or global or big or small, but also that point number 2 is, yes, we have to do self-exploration. And that is so important. And it is just saying, who am I? And what's my purpose? And how can I, in my perspective, how can I help and serve others?
Okay, so I also asked to their studio audience if you have any questions, and yes, sir.
So I noticed you made an important connection between lightness of your pack and the lightness of what you let weigh you down spiritually and emotionally. I think that's possibly analogous to maybe things we would hold on to physically in our households with regards to
Okay, so I'll try to repeat it so you can hear. The question was sort of making the analogy of lightening your pack for what you bring or what you don't in emotional baggage. Would you also apply that to physical things you have perhaps in your home? Is that okay? That's the
Sure. I've never thought of it that way, but yes, maybe that simplicity of living, which was also a part of the Camino, but applied to life. We don't need so much of what we have, our clutter, our belongings that we think. So yeah, I would agree with that not just backpacking, have less of a load and emotionally, but what we have around us, that our lives aren't about possessions and materialism.
okay. Thank you very much, Becca.
Thank you.
All right, please, another round of applause for Becca Johnson. So now we're going to move from maybe the inner landscape as well as the outdoors to the past and the present. And our next speaker is a professor of English and creative writing from Valencia College. And she's also the host of Breakdown, which is a YouTube series where she trying to spread awareness on poetry and poets by interviewing them and having them share some of their works. She's herself a published author and poet, and is going to be sharing some of her work from her latest book, Threed, This Road, Not Damascus. Speaking about dream keepers, long seeking coming, the next generations, join me in welcoming to the stage Tamara J. Madison.
Really? Oh. Okay. So I can go now? Okay. All right. That just messed up my rhythm, right? Get your rhythm back, get your rhythm back, get your rhythm back, get your rhythm back. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tamara J. Madison, and I am very excited and actually very humbled to be here with you today. And I'm going to tell you why in just a bit. So you just heard that I'm a poet. So of course, you're going to get a poem. It's National Poetry Month. But one of the things that I love to do is share the story behind the poem. Poems don't just come from anywhere. 9 times out of 10, there's a situation or a person or a phrase or a song or a painting or something that inspires a poem. So I'm going to share a poem with you, but first I want to share a little bit of the backstory, right? So when I was working on my last book, Read this road, not Damascus. I was in the process of working on the edits of the book, and we were getting close to that last galley. And my sister was actually playing around with some family photos and family archives, and she was digging through pictures, and she found a picture and she sent it to me via text message, right? So I get this text and I open up my phone and I'm look at this picture, and it felt like the picture was looking back at me. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to find a way to put this in the book. There's got to be a poem for this person that I put in the book, right? Because I had some poetry that was inspired by other family members as well. So I ended up doing a little digging around to find out who was in this picture. And I did some digging around and I found out who the person was. I found out a little bit about where she was from, and I want to introduce her to you. And her poem is called Prophecy, Maternal Lineage 1 for Melinda. On the back of the photograph, one of my foremothers wrote, "This is Melinda. She knew one day I would need to find you a century later, framed in sepia, statuesque and fierce, eyes locked into the camera. You long saw me coming. Grandmama kept you hidden, fearing you'd blotch her milky skin or mar her Christian countenance. Uncle says you were native, corn cob pipe smoking Indian. Others say you Moor, descendant of the originals who first tamed Turtle Island. Textbooks and scripture twisted your legacy into caricature. But I say, the way you stand there looking at me in your Sunday dressed best, staring across generations at me, daring me to be free. Oh, Miss Melinda, Madam, you were never anybody's slave. Thank you. So that was the poem for my great-great-grandmother, Melinda Calvert. And I did a little digging around and I found out that Melinda was born around the time of slavery. She lived into her old age, I believe in her 90s, and she never learned to read and write, right? She didn't have wealth either, didn't have much of anything, of course, being born into slavery. And I found an interesting court document. In that court document, I saw where she went to court for the custody of her two daughters. Not able to read and write, but she went to court for custody over those two daughters. One of her daughters was my great-grandmother, Nancy Ione Martin, who I actually met and did get to know. Nancy Ione Martin, unlike her mother, she could read and write. She grew to become the pastor's wife of a prominent church in a small little town in Kentucky. And she had two children. One of those children was my grandfather, Carlton Dulaney Martin, also known as Reverend C.D. Martin. Like his father, he was a farmer, he worked the land, but he also became a minister and a prominent leader of his community. My grandfather had 4 children, and the last one, his only girl, was my mother, Mary Ola Martin Madison. She was known as the Audrey Hepburn of Evansville, the small city where I grew up. She was classy and she was sassy inside and out. Baby, from her head to her toes, matching heels and purses, elbow gloves, and them hats. My mama could wear a hat like nobody's business, right? Her senior year in high school, she was the leading actress in the school play. She loved the arts. She didn't get to pursue her love of the arts as an actress, but she instilled that love in us, her children. So we went to shows, we went to musicals, we went to plays, we listened to all kinds of music, and she instilled within us a love of literature. And here I stand before you on a TED Talk stage, right? It's kind of amazing when you think about it. And I'm a poet, a published author. It would be really arrogant and ignorant of me to say that I'm here because I'm so brilliant and I'm so talented and I have amazing ambition and I'm so disciplined and what have you, right? That's just a little bit of it. Because there are days when I don't feel so brilliant or so smart. I don't feel beautiful, or I don't feel ambitious, or I don't feel disciplined. I don't have the energy. I'm wondering, why am I bothering to do any of this in the first place? And then there's a little something that just nudges me, and it keeps me going. That line in the poem, "You long saw me coming," kept messing with me, right, when I was working on the manuscript. And I asked myself, what does that mean? Why did I feel like Miss Melinda was looking at me in the picture? What does it mean she long saw me coming? Yeah, I wrote the line, but I wasn't quite sure what it meant. And then I figured it out. Miss Melinda had nothing but her vision. And that was powerful. She was able to dream a world and hold the vision of something greater for her generations, even if she did not live to see it all, right? So I consider her to be a dream keeper. That's what I call a dream keeper. Not a dream catcher, right? Not just catching it, but catching the dream and keeping it and tending to it. I believe that Miss Melinda was a dream keeper. The poet Langston Hughes says in his famous poem, Dream Keepers, "Bring me all your dreams, you dreamers. Bring me your heart melodies so that I may wrap them in a blue cloud cloth away from the too rough fingers of the world." That's what a dream keeper does. A dream keeper protects the vision away from naysayers. A dream keeper nurtures the vision when others don't believe it's even possible. A dream keeper protects it for generations that are coming. I had a dream keeper. So what about you? Many of you had grandparents, great-grandparents, perhaps relatives that you don't even know and haven't even heard of, that came here to this land, perhaps not knowing the language, perhaps not knowing the customs, perhaps with nothing but a dream and a vision and a bag or two. Perhaps fleeing from wars in other territories or poverty, just chasing something that they knew had to be better for generations after them, even if they didn't live to see it. And here you are, right? When was the last time you thought about that? When was the last time you paused to tell them thank you? Thank you. So I'm here at this event to invite you to be a dream keeper with me. I figured if Miss Melinda could keep dreams and she had little to nothing, I can probably do a really good job at it, right? I'm here to invite you to be a dream keeper with me. Don't worry, it won't cost you anything. You don't have to have a big bank account. It won't cost you anything at all. You don't have to have any special training or degrees. Miss Melinda didn't have it either. You don't even have to worry about spending too much time or putting it on your Google Calendar or your agenda, right? All you have to do is hold the vision for something greater, something grander for those who are going to come after you, even if you don't live to see it. And every once in a while, you keep it tucked in your heart, but every once in a while, you take it out, you take a look at it, you buff it, you shine it, put a little love on it, and then you tuck it right back in your heart, and you keep it safe, away from those two rough fingers of the world, right? So that's why I'm here, to invite you to be a dream keeper with me. After all, somebody, somewhere, long saw you coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. So remember to send your questions in and put that in the chat. Also for the crowd out here, I'll be asking if you have any questions, but I'll go ahead and get it started out. What inspires you for the themes of your poetry? I heard a little bit of inspiration there, but just generally, what inspires you as a poet?
As a poet, stories and language and music really inspire me, right? I'm not usually the nature poet, but relationships between people, relationships with the self, and then stories. I always loved stories as a child, and music is a big influence in my poetry. All kinds of music has a lot of influence in my work. Yeah.
Good. So from Anissa Beyer, what is your dream?
Oh, Anissa, all up in my business. Let me see, what is my dream? I'm trying to think of one that's safe enough for me to say in public. My dream is to one day at some point do nothing but be a writer and make all of my living just being a writer and sharing stories that need to be told. That's my dream, one of them.
Very good. Anybody here in the studio audience that has a question? All right. Go with you again. Okay, so the question is, just so that the people at home can hear, what kind of music do you find the most moving?
The music that I find most moving usually is jazz, right? And there's all kinds of jazz. But as a very young writer and poet, one of my mentors is an avant-garde musician. And I began to explore jazz, the syncopation of rhythms. The other thing that I really love about the jazz music genre is that there's a lot of respect paid to older jazz musicians and their music. And jazz artists often do play each other's work, and that's how they grow. And there's a very high bar of quality and achievement, you know, in that music form. They protect it. So that, I would say, that's probably my biggest influence, especially as an adult poet. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you for sharing. Let's get one more round of applause.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we're moving from the past and the present to underground. Our next speaker is a caver, a writer, and a science teacher. She began caving about 7 years ago with her daughter because they wanted to try to see what adventuring was all about in this new format. And actually now she's kind of come up in the caving community, and she's a secretary for the Tampa Bay Grotto. Speaking about exploring caves, please join me in welcoming to the TEDxLSSC stage, Amy Middleton.
Hi, welcome. So I've always been a naturally curious person. I listen in on other people's conversations when they're talking too loud. If I find a tiny folded up note on the floor in my classroom, I open it up and I read it. I may even be guilty of a deep dive into someone's social media account that I'm especially curious about. So you can imagine why I originally was intrigued by caving when I came across an advertisement from the Georgia Girl Guides. They were offering guided tours of a cave in Tennessee. I've been on tours of show caves before, but this one promised to be different. It was a wild cave. They guaranteed a good time and that I would get muddy. Everyone in the photos on the website looked like they were having a great fun adventure. So curiosity activated, I clicked the link immediately and signed me and my teen daughter right up. Just looking at the entrance to a cave, you start to get pretty excited. Just look how excited I am standing outside of this cave with my helmet on, getting ready to explore. Fun fact, no two cave entrances look the same. If you post a photo of a cave entrance to any caving group on social media, within just minutes, you'll get at least 10 comments of people who recognize exactly which cave it is. Just looking at the entrance of a cave lets you know that you're in for an adventure. So, what's inside of a cave? See, you're curious too, right? Other than formations like stalactites and stalagmites, like most of you may already know about, stalactites are long tapering formations made by deposited materials hanging down from the overhead ceiling of a cave, and stalagmites are deposits that build up from the floor. They can meet in the middle, forming spectacular columns. And as we went through the Georgia Girl Cave, ironically led by a Georgia boy, these formations and others like soda straws, cave bacon, and cave popcorn were pointed out to us. Apparently, cavers get hungry when they're exploring and name everything they can after food. So after our first cave trip, my daughter and I, we were hooked. We've gone on to explore over 150 other caves and have seen some really cool stuff. In Georgia, we helped survey a cave that they open only one day a year so that volunteers can count the bat population that hibernates in there and is protected. In another cave in Tennessee, we found a salamander guarding her eggs that you could actually see the babies moving inside of, getting ready to be born. We have seen the legendary cave cricket that can indicate whether the conditions of a cave are healthy by the number of legs that they have. 6 legs is good, 4 is bad. If they have only 4 legs, that means that they've actually consumed their own legs trying to get energy. We have visited pristine caves covered in pure white formations with crystals coming up out of crystal pools, and we have seen caves damaged so badly by spray paint and people vandalizing, digging in them, and abusing them so that they have been closed off and filled in, and no one will ever be able to see them again. When you explore a cave, you're lighting up a world that sits in complete darkness, and you see places that very few people have ever laid eyes on. It makes you feel protective and secretive about them. Seeing both the beauty of caves and some of the damage to caves has shown me the necessity of working to protect and preserve these fragile ecosystems. If you're curious about caves, the best way to explore caves is to join up with a local grotto or caving club. In caving clubs, you will of course learn the caver's motto, which is to take nothing but pictures, leave nothing but footprints. You'll get opportunities to help with cave conservation and preservation. But the best part is you'll get to go on cave trips to see caves. I'd like to share a text between me and some friends from my grotto from a recent cave trip. Here it goes. Melissa, the cave trip last weekend was crazy. We had to duck underwater. The respirator got wet and someone kept trying to talk to me, but I could barely breathe through the wet thing, let alone keep up a conversation. Me, my elbows and knees are still scraped up from the meat grinder passage and the cashew squeeze. Emily, I'm glad I turned around when I did. I can't believe you went on for another hour. Melissa, we saw some cool formations past the North Sand Crawl. It was long though. Me, when do we go back? Emily, LOL, well, I ripped my pants sliding down Pincher's Pass, so as soon as I get a new pair. So what is it about caves that makes us want to explore them despite tight squeezes in the shape of cashews, tick checks, ripped pants, and crawling through rocky, watery passages known as the meat grinder? When I look back through all of my pictures, other than the cool formations, I noticed that there's a group photo from every single cave with all of us smiling huge smiles, covered in mud, and looking very satisfied with ourselves. It is an amazing feeling to push yourself to do something exciting and adventurous. But the best part of it all is the relationships that come out of it. You make bonds as you encourage one another and help each other to challenge and push yourself safely, of course. You find inner strength and you build friendships and strengthen relationships in a place where self-service doesn't exist until after the fact. Most of all, caving with a local grotto can make you feel like you've been transported back to when you were a kid again. Just hanging out in the woods with friends and exploring and hoping for adventure. Maybe you'll even find the entrance to a cave that no one has found before. And curiosity activated, you'll see what kind of adventure waits for you inside when you decide to try caving.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing, and be sure to send those questions in and I'll get them started. This is from Anna Blair. What has been your favorite cave experience?
My favorite cave experience was when we went to a cave in South Georgia called Glory Hole, the one that had the crystal pool. It was a crystal, like a pool of water with all these crystals forming in it and coming up out of it to form these giant white, pure white crystal formations.
Excellent. So the next question's from Courtney Jones. Have you ever felt scared during a cave exploration?
Yeah, so there's two types of caves. There's horizontal caves and vertical caves. And I would say that when I do vertical caving, a lot of times I feel scared. I have trouble trusting my equipment, but caving is cool because you can make it as scary or as dangerous or as safe as you want it to be. If you ever feel uncomfortable, you can always just turn back.
All right. So for those of you in the audience here, do you have any questions? Yes, sir. I'll repeat it after you say it. How long have you been caving?
Probably about 7 years.
I had one other back here.
Yeah, she caves with me. Almost every cave that I've been in, we've gone together.
There's also a question about carbide lamps and probably not using those anymore.
No, I have never used a carbide lamp. We used regular lights. Learned our lesson about using waterproof lights. You definitely want to use a waterproof light. And we always carry 2 sources of light and extra batteries. So you never want to be left in the dark.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to give her a hand.
Let's give another round of applause for all our speakers.
Absolutely.
So we covered a lot of landscapes, we explored new territory and heard a lot of different ideas. And so hopefully these will spark some ideas or inspiration or questions that you can search out for yourselves as well. Now, we would be remiss if we didn't take and talk about our next big exciting event, because this was our last salon for the spring, but our next event is, what is it, Jeremy?
It is TEDxLSSC 2022. And the theme is
Ripples.
So this is our official unveiling of our symbol, and our theme for that event will be a full day event on Saturday, September 24th. And so we're currently going through speaker applications. We had, I think, 187 videos to watch. And so we're narrowing those down to get our final list.
So we'll be having at the event's a little bit like a salon in that we have about 3 full sessions, and we have about 4 speakers and a performer as well that does a talk during that. And so we'll be narrowing that 180 some list down to 12 speakers and 2 to 3 performers. Plus, between all the sessions, we have audience engagement activities and lunch and interaction and who knows, like our last event, remember we had people juggling fires. So you'll never know what you'll see at a TEDxLSSC event. So if you're interested, please check out our website, and in probably about a month or so, participant applications will be available so people can take and purchase tickets for the event.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to seeing you at that next big event. And after that, we'll have another salon like this in the fall term, and we're still making plans for the future.
And there's some preview events in Zoom coming up as well. So please check out our website. Of all those things will be announced there and on our Facebook page as well. Thank you again to all our speakers and to our wonderful, amazing tech crew who's running around backstage and in the box doing all sorts of things. Please give them a round of applause.
Round of applause for the tech crew. Thank you.
Nice. You have no idea how many moving pieces are going around, and things don't always go perfectly, but we couldn't do it without them.
And thank you all for attending, either here in the theater or back home or at your desk in Zoom. We appreciate you taking part in our April Salon on Exploration.
So we hope to see you again in September or in Zoom or later on this summer. Keep talking, keep sharing, and keep spreading ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.